Rebecca. This is episode 1 of Rebel Roots with Rebecca Anzini, planting seeds for transformation. So I am excited to launch this. My goal is to highlight people's stories, whether it's planting seeds of transformation in the areas of alternative living, which could be like tiny homes, off-grid living, homesteading, health, which can come down to diet, lifestyle practices, different supplements that are working well, fitness regimens, and just sharing these tips with the world. I've been on my own journey here. This year has been really interesting. They say 2025 is the year of the snake and shedding, and really just going through that transformation and the fire so that you can use all of that inside of you to produce and create something beautiful for the world. So if you look back on this YouTube channel, it's probably confusing because when I first started it, it went Tiny Homes by Rebecca Powers was the name. So I just want to kind of clear the air here because some people might be confused with this whole rebrand. When I moved to Texas, I made my Facebook name back in the day before I moved to Rebecca Powers, kind of just as a joke. But when I moved to Texas in 2010, people actually thought that was my last name, and it kind of just stuck. So for like almost 10 years, that's what I went by, and that was just how I was known. And then on this channel, you'll see I did about 30 episodes, Live Free with Rebecca Bush. So at that point, I had gotten married, and my last name, I didn't legally change it, but online I was going by Rebecca Bush, with a company that I helped start called Live Free Academy. And so I'm no longer going by that name either. My real last name and the roots of who I am, Rebecca Anzini, is now what I am going by. And so just wanted to start things off there for folks who maybe have seen videos that I've produced about tiny homes or homesteading or things along those lines in the past. But okay, now that that's out of the way, I want to just share a slideshow presentation which shares the story about my tiny home journey. So right now, I'm really excited the work that I'm on nowadays. So I have been helping Eco Village Tours, which is a sustainable tourism company. We help people travel to intentional communities, eco villages all over the world. So the 2026 tour lineup is honestly incredible. I'll produce more content with information about those tours. You might have seen in some of my prior videos, I've interviewed Cynthia Tina, the founder of Eco Village Tours. I've also produced content about I went on the Costa Rica Eco Village tour. That's actually where I got this little overwrap. And anyway, and it was just such a transformative experience to actually see these alternative living models in practice. And when I say alternative living models, I mean people really retrograding, right? Going back to the way our species evolved, like living communally, village style setting where we're doing more with less, living lighter on the earth. And in alignment with that, creating alternative governance models and agreement systems of how things operate and consensus or decision-making processes, and then of conflict resolution skills, which is important in any setting, whether you're living in a normal condo or apartment or a traditional neighborhood subdivision. But what I think is really powerful about these communities is that they're paving the way, showing how practices like permaculture, which is permanent agriculture, or food forestry, gardening, really knowing where your food comes from. And that's something I want to touch on with the different interviews that I'm putting on, is like, there's nothing more intimate than the food you put inside of your body, being a temple, or anything inside of your body. And then also where you live, the roof above your head, seeing natural built homes or these alternative tiny homes, saving money financially by growing your own food or having a unique living dwelling that is more in harmony with the planet. Like people are doing these things already, which is why I think Eco Village Tours is so cool. And I encourage anyone who's interested in this lifestyle to go on a tour, and that's ecovillagetours.com. And I'm also really excited to announce, so I'm now working with Tiny House Society. And so there are people selling tiny homes, and I get to represent some of the buyers. So if you are looking to sell a tiny home, please contact me. I will be happy to help you. So Tiny House Society is like the Zillow of tiny homes. So we're just like helping to get the word out for people selling their tiny homes. It could be anything from a tiny house on wheels to a schoolie to converted shuttle bus to shipping container tiny home, you name it. So we are here to help. I am here to help. And also, if you are a buyer looking to buy a tiny home and you don't know where to start, we don't typically represent buyers in that way, but I could help because there are so many hundreds of listings. And so depending on where you live, what your budget is, whether you're buying cash or financing. Now, some people buy the tiny homes not to live in. They buy them as like an Airbnb or a short-term rental or whatever. So if you need help through that process, I did start a Rebel Roots Realty website. So please go on the website. You can put in a contact form and I will get back with you. This is like literally what I'm doing full time nowadays. So I'm super excited to help people with this. Okay, so let's go into this little presentation. I just want to share my personal tiny home story. So thank you all for watching. So this is Rebel Roots Tiny Homes Off-Grid Alternative Living Tips. My intention is to post a new video every Monday, and I'm actually really excited to have a full lineup of guests that I have invited onto the show to get things going, who are doing this lifestyle, who can share, who either have built intentional community or who are, really spearheading this whole like tiny home movement. So stay tuned. Every Monday, I have this coming out, new content and videos. So where I'm coming from in my background, I kind of want to shed some light on, just so you guys know a little bit about my tiny home story. So first of all, I've been at this for 15 years or at least over a decade. So this was me on an Eco Village tour in Costa Rica, just on top of the world. Such a cool experience. And then also just wanted to share, so I'm doing Rebel Roots, which is the podcast. It's also kind of a connection bridge to get the content, media, education, information out there to the world, showing what tiny home listings are available right now. You can use Rebel Roots as a promo code on Eco Village Tours, and it will give you a $111 discount on your tour. Those tours includes lodging, your transportation to and from each community, and then also the meals, which are always sourced local, organic, really good food. So, tours generally range from like 8 days to 14 days. It kind of depends on where you're going and what tour you sign up for. We're going to Europe, we have India, Bali, 4 tours in Costa Rica, Vermont in the United States, and always announcing new opportunities to go see these cool eco villages. Okay, so that's a little about me and what I do. So here's my background. So how I got into all of this, it really started through entrepreneurship. So I had moved to Texas and I had no family. I was a single female, really needing to seek alternative living solutions as a means of existence. Like I moved out when I was 17. I've never moved back in with my family. I love my family. In fact, I moved to Arizona recently to be closer to my family. So it's not about that. It's more so like always feeling fiercely independent and just kind of like counterculture and like on the fringe of not really vibing with the whole matrix systems, right? So I was renting a studio apartment, which was like 400 square feet. I was working for the startup natural tooth powder company called My Magic Mud. We were the first natural teeth whitening product, oral care line really that hit the market, the best selling in the natural products industry for oral care. lab tested. It was the bee's knees. Like we had a good run there for 5 years. It was so much fun, but it started as a farmer's market booth before it became an international best-selling product, and in all the mainstream retail stores and international distribution. So for like 2 years, I was working the farmers markets every single weekend. And that gave me a very firsthand glimpse into like the counter economy, bartering, trading, but also what real food tastes like. I remember having my first carrot from the booth from an actual farm. The soil was still on it. I remember eating it and just being like, oh my God, I've been lied to my whole life. Like there was so much flavor. I could just like taste that it was different than those little chlorine bleached, ones that are like cut like this where they're already peeled and everything in a bag. In the store, it was like, I've been lied to. There's real food. This is what food should be, right? And I feel very, fortunate and blessed to even have been in a situation where I was able to work the farmers markets every weekend like that. It was just so cool to see the local economy and local food producers. And it really gave me a firsthand look at that alternative living, right? Outside of like buying stuff from Walmart or, the traditional subdivision where the neighborhoods you go home, you put your garage door down, you don't even know the people that live next to you, you work your 9 to 5, go, 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 go. You retire at a certain age, and then, that's that. Okay, so the farmers markets gave me a look into a way different lifestyle. So what I did was I calculated, because I was working for a startup, I wasn't earning a lot. How much was I spending on my apartment in that year? And it was around $12,000 a year. Because it was like back then, 2015, 2014, I don't remember the exact year, but it was like 800 bucks for my apartment, plus you had to pay for like all the utilities and stuff like that. So I said, what if I buy a travel trailer and I'll move it onto my friend's property and I'll cut my bills in half. That was my goal. Just like, let's find a tiny home I wanted, but there was no financing at that time and definitely no tiny homes for $12,000. So my friend online was like, just go get an RV, start there. So that's what I did. And I know a lot of people, that's kind of like their gateway into this whole movement lifestyle, just starting with an RV, right? They're more affordable, mass produced, etc. I'm not saying it's like the end all be all goal, but that's what I did. So I did that for 3 years. My loan was like 200 bucks a month. My little lot fee was like 250 bucks a month. So I was coming in around $500 a month. That was half of what I was paying. Woo, go me. Okay. So I lived there for 3 years. While I was there studying permaculture, the mentor of mine, my really close friend who owns the land, she studied with Buckminster Fuller. We had a good time together. We always had delicious meals. It was like intentional community, but micro. There were like two other people living out there and her husband. We had a really good era when I was out there, but I also had the freedom to travel a lot during that stage. And so I went to like Earth Haven Eco Village. I was back in 2017, I think, to check out that eco village community. I would go to like local farms. I started a conference called the Imaji Living Eco Village Seminar, which later transformed into an event called the Exit and Build Land Summit. And I'll share a little bit about that. But this was me buying my RV. I renovated everything. I painted the cabinets. I called it a glamper, a glamorous camper. And this was my first step into tiny home living. Woo, I think I was like 24 at the time. But imagine, I mean, I could cut my bills in half. I owned this. I was actually able to sell this later in life for like, I think 5 grand or something like that. And so, this is the route that I took to get into this lifestyle. Okay. Oh yeah, and here's what it kind of looked like on the inside. So I renovated everything.
Well, it's a pretty small space, so this tour won't last too long.
Redid the floors.
What could be an entertainment center, but I've strategically decided to not own a television
Pretty cozy, right?
so that I spend my time doing more productive things. I redid the backsplash in the kitchen, like an icy blue breeze theme.
Yeah. So
As
I'm
you
not
can
going to
see, my
spend
least favorite chore.
too much time on this. So anyway, I mean, it was cozy, right? Like a decent amount of space. So I just wanted to show you. So that's kind of what it looked like, the bedroom. I mean, this is like, in my opinion, enough space for someone in their 20s, someone traveling, maybe someone retired.
Do
I had space for my clothes, little bathroom area.
all the badges from the different trade shows I do.
Always traveling to trade shows back then. Okay, so that was my life at that point. And then I went on, I went to the first 3D printed home, South by Southwest. I think it was 2016. That was really cool. Used to still do the nonprofit. We would do booths. I did the natural building, cob demonstrations, going to the geodesic dome, greenhouse, like other greenhouse. I had my first large speaking engagement at an event in 2019, I think, talking about eco-villages and intentional communities, free private cities, special economic zones, transition towns, sustainable autonomous communities. I've been at this for many years. Okay, so I visited Arco Santi, which is actually only really close to where I live now, like an hour away. So that's like an urban laboratory, Palo Solari, arcology, architecture, ecology combined. It's really cool. If you've never visited before, I would recommend it. That's also a photo of Roxanne Meadows. So Jacques Fresco started up the Venus Project. They worked together on that. He, unfortunately, both Paulo and Jacques have passed away, sadly, but they were very influential in my kind of like learning about all of this. And so I wanted to go visit and see these, different plots of land and communities that have been started up on a larger scale. Just learning about gardening. This is me at Earth Haven. So I've traveled around. I was trying to learn about this alternative living, right? And embracing it and encompassing it myself. So I believe the benefits of tiny home living, after all this research, come down to this, and living it myself. You do have, in some ways, it's a sacrifice, right? It's just a trade-off. You have, in my opinion, a higher quality of life. You can go have more free time. You have less to manage, less to pay for, less to worry about. So you're saving money, less to clean and maintain. Doesn't take very long to clean a tiny home. It's more eco-friendly, lighter on the earth. There's a philosophy called minimalism where you're doing more with less. You're releasing attachment to possessions, which opens you up energetically for more lifestyle experiences like traveling and going on eco-village tours and going to retreats and visiting family or whatever it is you want to do to spend your time doing, right? Less clutter, which is known to cause anxiety and overwhelm. So just less is more is the whole mentality, right? So travel, freedom, more time to connect with community or your hobbies, gardening, whatever they may be. Yes. Okay. So it's kind of a bridge solution until a more permanent dwelling is built for some people. They use it as a way to like save up for the next thing, which is what I did. Okay, so the cons, pros, you got to weigh those. Obviously, consider the cost. What is your budget? Like for me, for that first era when I was like 24 or whatever, I was like, I'm going to spend this anyway on an apartment this month. Why flush the money down the toilet? I could go buy something for that price and then, eventually own it. So consider the cost, what your budget is, look at your debt to income ratio, or just if you can buy it cash, great. Some people do have to take out like a personal loan or an RV loan. Lending Club, Lightstream. If you contact me, there's tons of options. If you have to finance it, do you want to be able to travel with it, or do you want it to stay in one spot? And then considering how is it going to hook up to utilities? How is the electricity going to work? Is it 50 amp? Is it 30 amp? Is it off the grid with solar panels and batteries? Am I going to have rainwater catchment, or do I need to plug in a hose? Like, where does the waste go? Is there a black tank? Is there a compost toilet? Is there a septic connection hose? Okay, all these things. Where are you going to park it? This is number one. This is why I really like tiny home communities that are already established, because there's a location, it's already set up, it's plug and play. You're ready to roll, turnkey, baby. But if you don't have that, you have to figure out a location to park it. If you don't own land yourself, if you have friends who own property, or you're finding folks who are like, hey, you can rent a lot here. There's people who do RV parks and they take their tiny home. So you have to figure out can I park it and where do I want to park it? And then of course, timing. Am I doing this saving up for retirement? Am I doing this once my kids move out of the house, then I can go do something like this, or whatever the timing is? Or do I need to do this like right now, lickety split? So considering all those factors and your short-term and long-term goals is super important before you hop right into tiny home living. I also created so again, like back to Rebel Roots, like I've done many different renditions of creating content about this lifestyle. And I pray to God that Rebel Roots is the last one because I'm tired of bopping around from different projects. But I created something called Perma Powers, which was um, a vlog about kind of my travel trailer glamper journey, and then also like looking at tiny homes. I would go to a lot of different conferences, trade shows, exploring like how to get off grid. And I interviewed, this is what I love to do. So even back then, I was interviewing people about tiny homes and like, doing little tours and stuff like that. So you can find that channel if you want to online. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it was at this trade show that my next big project that I stumbled upon occurred. And that was Village Farm Tiny Home Community. So they had a booth at this tiny house expo, and this must have been 2018. And so I started working with Village Farm Tiny Home Community. One of the largest established tiny home communities is just in Austin, Texas, 8 miles, just 8 miles from downtown Austin. And so there's a certified organic farm at the heart of it. So when I first started, this is what we call the Founders Club side. So all of these tiny homes when I was there got filled up, okay? And then I moved on, and some of these tiny homes I actually helped find buyers 3 different times because people would move out. Oh, I got a job offer in Seattle, or this happened, or whatever. And then we'd get someone else to move in. And then this was phase one of the farm side. And then I helped master plan phase two and phase three. And I had pre-sold 75% of the lots for phase two and three. And this is our sales center. All these tiny homes came in. I worked closely with the farmers. We would do like potluck dinners, events, garden club. It was so much fun. We had a great time. But I did end up, I should have stayed until the end. That was my goal. And I jumped into organizing the Exit and Build Land Summit in the fall of 2021. And I was the co-producer of that through this year. And we did 5. But I decided, and I did like the Buy Land Build Community Boot Camp, and we had just started Live Free Academy. So that was in 2022. I decided, I love Village Farm. This was a great chapter of my life. But I decided after 3 years, it was time to move on and do my own thing. And so my husband and I at the time were living in the tiny home at Village Farm. I lived there, I worked there. It was a lot, but we all lived together in the tiny home. And also we saved up to buy our homestead. So, part of my employment compensation was having access to this tiny home.
Unique. Some of the tiny homes don't actually have a dining room space per se. They'll do some creative bar stools and high top tables or tables that connect up to the wall and then drop down. But we are fortunate to have a really wide living room. So we do have space for dining for our family of 4. And just behind there is a really large couch. It's perfect for us. We like to cuddle up and watch our shows in the evening or play video games. There's the kiddos hanging out in the loft.
So here's a different view.
Container store. And actually built in this custom number. It was around $250, so very affordable and feasible.
We made a closet design at the container store. We
designed this ourselves with the consultants at the container store. And now we have plenty of space to hang our dresses and blouses and shirts. And also plenty of space for extra shelves with these little containers that hold shirts and extra pairs of pants.
We're getting our first questions coming in.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Help.
So anyway, that's a little look at the tiny home.
Buy one cash. So we do have financing available. It's
okay. So yay, that was a little look at the tiny home. I lived in there for 2 or 3 years. So we saved up. We were living in the tiny home. Again, I wish, reflecting back, that I would not have left as abruptly as I did. That's something that I still feel sad about. But I was feeling a lot of pressure in that relationship and a lot of pushing and nudging to, whatever. It is what it is. So I kind of listened to those outside voices instead of my internal guidance. And hindsight's always 2020. But so then I hopped right into getting a 10-acre homestead. We called it Radical Roots Ranch, hence bringing to life this podcast, Rebel Roots podcast, planting seeds for transformation. So just trying to kind of pivot. But yeah, Radical Roots was a really cool project for 4 years. We've been, we hosted a lot of events there. I'll show you the site plan. So kind of did my own thing. So we were trying to get 100 acres and do this master plan community. And we sent in a letter of intent and found a really cool property and worked on that for a long time. Had a board of advisors, did a site plan and everything. And sadly, that didn't work out. And that was really hard for me. I did Freedom Family Fellowship. I was the producer of the Accident Build Land Summit, and now Rebel Roots Realty. Okay, so that's like a little bit about me. So if you're ever like, who is this lady? Why is she obsessed with tiny homes? This is my story. So here's what I built on my 10 acres. So I did lot 1, 2, 3. We built that out, which would be like here, 1, 2, 3. So we had 13 people who lived out on our homestead. This was the guest house everyone had access to. This was our main house. We turned this barn into a chicken coop here. And then the intention was for this to become a gym. Then like storage for the 0 turn point mower. Oh, yeah. And then the food forest here. And then we built a 100-foot by 100-foot pine, 20 feet deep here. Never got to lots 5, 6, 7, 8. We had a pecan orchard. We built out wicking beds back here. It was a lot. So here's some of the gardening. So I am interested in like food production and homesteading. I learned a lot at the village farm community with food production, but I also learned a lot on my own homestead and experimenting. I did the 2 different tower gardens, which was fun. I planted all sorts of stuff, potatoes, carrots, beets, radishes. Bok choy grew like crazy. Those were all the winter, kale, spinach in the winter, chives, mint, basil, all the herbs. Cilantro grows well in the winter. I'm just thinking of that because of these pictures. And then, of course, in the summer, okra, tomatoes, basil in the summer does really well. Squash, lots of butternut squash, watermelon, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so that was a fun chapter. And this is kind of how we would market it. So anyway, we took these little IBC totes, cut them in half, turned them into wicking beds. So that's what they looked like when they were done. And there was like 16 or 18 of them. I can't remember. Then we did row crops back here at my tower garden. So I was a food producing machine. We did a lot of experimenting back then, and it was fun. And we had a lot of community members, and we learned, and we built out the chicken coop here, just kind of used the systems that we already had in place and made that, work with what you have, kind of a thing. We had 25 Muscovy ducks, almost 30 chickens. And then at one point there were 8 quail, but those didn't do well for us, sadly. So they weren't happy with our little setup. We built out the barn and kind of enclosed it in. Lots of work, guys. So these were like the work parties, and I would always recommend if you're doing tiny homes, it's more fun with other people and community. You don't want to be stuck in your house. It's about getting out into nature, going and doing more things. And, that's really what I feel like this lifestyle offers. There's some photos of us building the pond. So yeah, this is just a little about me and my background. I've been kind of obsessed with all this for at least over a decade. And I just think it's a really cool way for people to get back to their roots. And like, I'm telling you right now, when I ate that carrot and I experienced that, it was like, oh my God, I really felt like the whole mass centralized food production systems we have, which, I'm not trying to sound overly privileged or whatever, but if we could just get more, neighborhood gardens going and people knowing where their food comes from, I feel like it would really solve a lot of our health issues and things we're going through. So I was going through some health issues too, though, at this time. I have videos on my YouTube channel about my explant surgery. So I had these, it's a whole situation, but when I was like 19, I decided to get breast implants, and they had, over the course of those 13 years that I had them, they were under the muscle and they had adhered to my rib cage, and they were filled with betadine, which I didn't know, and the saline, which is like iodine, and I had like metallic taste in my mouth, heavy metals, and I was I got the implants out, thank goodness. My back pain went away. So a lot of the stuff I've learned about health too was because of the situation I was going through with the breast implant illness. But I started to get these weird rashes all over my body, which apparently is a sign that your kidneys are breaking down. So I've had to do a lot of research into like alternatives. So I've done like, I love the Global Healing Center. I'm going to promote them. I love LifeWave. I'm a big proponent of that. It's light therapy, phototherapy. I actually use them every night. I put it on my forehead, the sleepy nights one. It's so good, the best sleep I've ever had. They have all sorts of different types. X39 is the most popular energy enhancer. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about stuff like that, what helped me to heal. The liver cleanse was cool because if you just do even, it was a 5-day cleanse. If you just can commit to something like that, it's crazy how fast you can turn your health around. Getting gallstones out and all sorts of health benefits, energy levels increase. So, yeah, I think because of what I went through with how sick I was at a very young age, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, just really sick all the time, tons of health issues. Like you can look it up with breast implant illness. It's pretty crazy. But I want to share ways, not just beyond like what we're eating and growing our own food and stuff like that, but also like cool things I found along the way that helped me just manage and heal from all that. Oh yeah, here's a little information. So then I traveled to England, I traveled to Mexico to talk about breast implant illness and my healing journey. Scar capsule, like these were the actual implants inside me. Your body literally starts to attack. It's so crazy. Anyway, whatever. If you want to learn about that on this channel, I have a few different interviews. Laura Bowden was on Oprah. Great clip of her, kind of even back in the 90s, like a total OG in this space, an advocate, angel, really helping people. So you'll see I also have produced content about that. But overall, through this experience, it's created a container where I've been able to learn a lot about like holistic healing modalities. So I want to share that. And lastly, so this was May 2025, probably the peak of my career, being able to produce the Exit and Build Land Summit at Polyface Farm with Joel Salatin. Like, cross it off the list. I went out with a bang. Things dissolved and a lot happened since then, which is not something I'm going to share on YouTube, but this was like the highlight of my career for sure. And if you don't know who Joel Salatin is, you should probably look him up because he's awesome. But yeah, I got to stay in a tiny home there. I've always had a passion for tiny homes. I just think they make a lot of sense. Like no matter what stage you are in your life, you could just buy one, use it before you build. If you really want something bigger, and then once it's built, that could be like a guest room or it could be an Airbnb or like residual income coming in every month if someone's renting it. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. Like they're just so cool. And there was a cool compost toilet area and it was all off grid. They had solar. Just an interesting, like, leapfrog to live lighter on the earth. I also left Texas and moved from Texas. I'm no longer on that homestead I was showing photos of to write my book, which I have had to just put on the back burner of my life. I did the outline, the first chapter. So this is something through Rebel Roots that I intend to publish at some point in life, maybe 2026. So through my experience of our intentional community completely falling apart, and basically one of the community members was flushing baby wipes down the toilet and it clogged up the septic system and literally shit hit the fan. Like we had poop water everywhere in our guest house. Everyone had to move out. It was kind of falling apart, even honestly, before that whole situation and ordeal happened. Like $60,000 insurance claim. It was such a freaking crazy part of my life, going through all that, having to get that whole space renovated. It really feels like everything that I could have learned that could go wrong in intentional community, I went through all of that the last 10 years. And I've had so many cool, beautiful things from this that I've learned. But there's also been a lot of learning lessons that I hope I can share so that other people don't have to experience the way to not do it. So I feel like in a weird way, that's kind of like my point and purpose for Rebel Roots is to like plant seeds of transformation. You want things to bloom, but in order for beautiful things to bloom, sometimes you need the mud, you need the crap at the bottom to give it all the fertilizer and stuff. for that lotus flower to shoot up and really thrive. So let me help you. Let me tell other people's stories. Like, we want more people to, live this lifestyle so that we can make a positive impact on this planet and with one another, right? And to strengthen our local communities and have a more decentralized approach to social change and healing ourselves, that we have to focus right here ourselves first before we can give that outwardly. So lots of lessons learned, and that's kind of my intention with this. So I am now in Sedona, Arizona. Oh yeah, I want to do for the ending of every show. Yes, I am a hippie now. Well, I think I always have been. But it's really taking the time to share stories, to look inward, to form full intention of what it is our purpose on this planet is, and what other people have done, and maybe what we can take away from those stories so that we can give more outward and to ourselves inwardly. So I am in Sedona, Arizona right now. I'm living on a ranch. This is the first time I've lived alone my entire adult life. It's been really weird. I don't have livestock out here, but my neighbor has a pig. My other neighbors have 30 chickens. I started some raised bed gardens, and I'm just reinventing myself right now. So I invite you all to just, watch future episodes, take away what you choose to. If you want to sell a tiny home, if you want to buy a tiny home, if you would like to visit intentional communities, eco-villages, co-housing communities, this is my work. I'm honored to be working with Eco-Village Tours. I'm honored to be working with Tiny House Society, and I am blessed to finally have something that's my own that can't be taken away from me, just like other situations I've experienced in the past, sadly, which is Rebel Roots. And so this is my story. I look forward to telling yours someday. We're all here to live our best story and to, be the author of our own book. And so, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. And I know we're all on a journey to make the world a better place, make ourselves a better place, or at least I hope we are. And so Rebel Roots really, in my goal for this podcast is, I don't even know, is it a podcast? It's just kind of like me on a video right now. And that's just where I'm starting. I don't have a studio. I don't have a fancy microphone. I literally am just recording this on Zoom and uploading it. Why? Well, I hope that it inspires folks, or I hope that it helps people on their path of, breaking out of matrix systems that aren't serving them, and to, just find the inspiration and courage to do life differently. So that's what it's all about. Rebel Roots, yay. That's my life in a nutshell. I hope that I can help you. My name is Rebecca Yanzini. Thank you for listening, and until next time. Peace out. Oh, yes, and rebelrootsrealty.com. If you visit my website, there's a contact page. Contact me. If you want to be on the show, I'd love to have you. Tell your story. Let's get all the word out there to the world and, spark some positive waves of change.